Greetings and welcome to the introduction to astronomy. In this week's misconception in astronomy, we are going to talk about the universe and try to find out if the universe is infinite or not. So let's decide, is the universe infinite? And the quick answer to that is a great big maybe. In other words, we don't know. This is not really something that's easy to answer because we don't know the exact shape or geometry of the universe. And it really comes down to, what do we mean by infinite? So infinite, going on forever. We also have to look at the idea, is the universe unbounded or is it bounded? But a bounded universe, a limited universe, might also not have an end. So one of the problems trying to understand this is that we're in a three-dimensional universe, and that would be expanding outward into a fourth dimension that we simply cannot picture. So our minds just cannot wrap themselves around a fourth dimension. But we can look at other dimensions. We could imagine smaller universes and use them as an analogy. So let's look at a one-dimensional universe. You could have a one-dimensional universe as a straight line that goes onward forever. That straight line will have no center and has no edge. It goes on forever. And you have to look at that from the perspective of some kind of, say, creature that lives on this universe. And it has one spot there. It is just here. And it can either look out in this direction, or it can look out in this direction and see its universe. But because it is living in this one-dimensional universe, it can't look perpendicular to that dimension. It only knows that single dimension. Now you can also imagine this exact same situation where this same one-dimensional universe is curved and is curved, say, into a circle. Now that same creature can follow this universe and could eventually come back to where they started. So you could start at one spot, you could go all the way around, and you'd end up coming right back around to where you started again. Now that universe is still infinite. It goes on forever, but it can also be bounded. So do we call that an infinite universe, or is it actually limited in size? And it's similar like to when we talk about, where is the edge of the earth? Well, to us, we can see the edge because we can imagine traveling up above the earth and up above and traveling above the earth and looking back down on it. But if you were just confined, if all you could do was see the surface of the earth, you can imagine there is no edge or center to the surface of the earth. You can walk forever and you never would reach an edge. You would never reach a center. So those two things. So is the surface of the universe, of the earth, infinite? Well, no. And we know it isn't. It actually has some limited size to it. But it really has no edge and no center. So we can also look at this from a two-dimensional standpoint. So let's take a look at that. So if we look at a two-dimensional universe, we can imagine that as a sphere, for example. A sphere is an analogy to the circle that we looked at previously. And the earth is the earth, or the universe here, is curved in on itself. So we are confined to the surface. We cannot leave that. So we cannot travel up out here. That's not possible. We cannot go inside this. We are confined just to the surface of the sphere. And you can imagine that just like the surface of the earth, you could go all the way around that and never reach an edge and never reach a center. So if the universe were something like this, then you can imagine that would still work with an expanding universe. That sphere is just expanding outward into one more dimension. As it gets bigger and bigger, it's essentially a two-dimensional surface that is curved that expands outward into the third dimension. So our universe could be something similar. We could have a three-dimensional universe then expanding outward into a fourth dimension. And it could be something that is bounded and has actual limits to it, or it could be something that simply does go on forever. So let's go ahead and finish up with our summary here. And what we've looked at is, first of all, we really cannot say. I cannot tell you for sure if the universe is infinite or not. So that's something we really cannot say for sure. And it's really hard for us to imagine and picture because of those higher dimensions that are involved. But we note that an object can appear infinite, but still be bounded and limited. And that was this example we looked at of a sphere. We can travel all the way around it, never reach an edge, but knowing that there is some limit, that there is still a certain surface area that then applies. So that concludes this week's misconception on the universe being infinite. We'll be back again next week for another misconception in astronomy. So until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.